After the drama of Knockhill, the Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship is back on the road once more. It's our second visit of the season to Donington. This time, though, we're on the full 2.5 mile Grand Prix circuit. This configuration of the circuit introduced way back in 1985 when Formula 3000 first came to Donington, and the track wasn't long enough to meet the governing body's standards. So, an S's and 2 hairpins were banged on at the end of the lap, and there's always drama. The chicane these days, that S's a very quick flick left and right, and the 2 hairpins have heavy braking and overtaking opportunities. After all that drama at Knockhill, the championship battle is well and truly joined. It's Tom Ingram with just a 3-point advantage over Jake Hill, who's suffering from food poisoning this weekend. Ash Sutton third, ahead of Dan Camish, with Colin Turkington 5th. Josh Cook 6th, ahead of Knockhill winner Rob Huff 7th, and up to 8th is Dan Rowbottom. So qualifying coming up on a track surface that about an hour ago was dry. Then we had quite a bit of heavy rain, and it is drying, but it's going to give the teams a little bit of a quandary, especially given that for this session they have a choice out of 2 tyre compounds. They will race on only one tomorrow all day, but for this session there is a choice of 2. But now factor in a third, because wets might be the way to go depending on just how wet the road is. The Porsche Carrera Cup GB qualifying session is just coming to an end. We had a red flag early on in that, so things are running a little bit late here. But while those cars are out on track and drying the road, all the teams understandably taking a keen interest in the track surface. After FP2, the field divided into the 2 groups ready for Q1. We'll come to those in a few moments. But before we go much further, let's just wind back a little bit, because earlier on in the day, Tim Harvey and Louise Goodman took their traditional stroll down the pit lane.
Well, here we are back at Donington Park, but obviously this time on the Grand Prix Loop. Second time we've been on the full configuration of the circuit. It's nice to have that change, isn't it?
It is, and you know, the Grand Prix circuit offers a different challenge, because you've got the fast-flowing first section, then you've got the technical big braking stops into the chicane and the 2 hairpins. So it does require a lot of the car and the driver, and especially the brakes.
Yeah. So big news this weekend is a new face in the paddock. He's right here behind us, actually, so we'll go and grab a word with him. But Dan Zelos, who has taken over the seat here at Team Bristol Street Motors. Ronan Pearson has stood down, amicably come to an arrangement with the team. So sad news, obviously, for Ronan, but great to see Dan. Obviously, he tied up the mini championship last time out.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad to lose a race winner like Ronan Pearson, but, you know, this is motorsport, things happen. It was an amicable agreement, but one door opens, another, one door closes, another opens, and, you know, for Dan Zelos, this is way beyond time. His BTCC debut is long overdue. 3-time mini champion, prolific winner, outstanding talent, and I'm excited to see what he can do in a touring car. Let's grab him,
He's been around this paddock forever in various different junior championships. So Dan, come in and have a word. We're just saying, fantastic. I feel like, well, Tim was just saying, this is long overdue, you making your BTCC debut, isn't it? That must feel like that for you too.
Yeah, you know, we've been trying to get here for years and years. I've gone through the ranks, Junetta Juniors, to Renault Clio Cup, to then Virtue Motors Mini Challenge, and I've been there 6 years now, and we've always been trying to make the step up, and we just thought it was always a dream and we wouldn't get there, but we're here. So yeah, we're names on the board and we've made it.
You've had a little bit of testing in this car pre-season, but it is still in at the deep end, isn't it? I mean, even just down to you've just done your first practice starts in the car.
Yeah, exactly. I was out in the car in 2022 for a tyre test. Since then, I've done nothing. So there's so much taking. I'm just trying to be a sponge and absorb all the information that's getting given to me. I've got some great teammates. You know, Nick, both of the Toms are absolutely fantastic. So I'm just taking in what I can. And you know, the practice started in store. We had a bit too much wheel spin, but you know, we can go back, look at the data, and work for tomorrow.
Dan, as I said this morning to you, great to see you here. You've driven this car before, but it's left-hand drive. It's a lot bigger. We all know how tight the racing is in touring cars, just as tight as in minis. Does that give you a little bit of, I need to find my spatial awareness?
Yeah, I've got no doubt there's going to be a massive learning curve this weekend, but I feel like being in the mini challenge has given me the perfect stepping stone to this. I feel, you know, quite settled in the car already. I don't know how I'll feel. I've got 19 other cars around me, but it's all a learning progress. So, you know, I'm happy to be here. I want to bring that Team Bristol Street Motors car back in one piece, because that's the least they deserve. If we can get some points along the way, then bonus.
A lot busier dashboard, a lot going on, isn't there, with countdowns and hybrid and everything else. Is it becoming second nature yet?
I wouldn't say second nature yet. No, I think, I can be half around a lap and feel like this lap feels good. And then you're like, oh, wait a second, I need to be on the hybrid as well. And you're forgetting about that. My fingers had never thought about doing stuff on the wheel or anything in the previous cars I've raced. So there's so much more to think about when you're going out there. You're working at a million miles an hour. Also, while you're trying to control a Hyundai that wants to kill you every second it gets.
Most important thing, I think, is to have fun, which is going to be difficult to do, I guess, because of all the focus. But it is important to remember the joy of this, isn't it?
100%. A few years ago, mini challenge, we just came back to it again and said, look, we want to come here and enjoy our racing. So much investment's gone into this. We started karting because we love racing, and that's why we do it. So I might be now stepping up to the big boys, but we still want to come here and enjoy our motor racing. And so far, this smile ain't going anywhere.
Best of luck. Best of luck. Have a fantastic weekend. Tim, let's take a wander because I can see. I think that's who we're just gesticulating at, isn't it? Another man to grab a word with. Who, talking about enjoying the racing, did he give us a fantastic race 3 last time out at Knock Hill?
I was saying during the race, what an absolute drive of a champion, and I know he loves compliments.
Especially from you, Tim. Especially from you. I know it's painful for you. I realise the pain.
No, I can respect and admire and fully appreciate what a fabulous drive that was going into that, because up against Ingram, a fired up Ingram, but you knew he had a championship in mind, but he knew you wanted to win the race. So some of the moves were showing intent to defend, some were, just to hold position, but you had pure pace in that race, and it was a great win.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, it's like you know what you're talking about, Tim. It's fantastic.
He's had a couple.
I know, and I obviously grew up watching Tim, so some of those moves might well have been Harvey inspired. You never know. It was a brilliant race. It was one of those races you get out of the car afterwards, and you just you look at each other, me and Tingram looking at each other, and you just know it was fabulous. It was brilliant. It was absolutely on the limit of trying, pushing too hard, not making the mistakes. But you always know when you're racing with someone like Tom that if you do get a clout from behind, it wasn't intentional. He will give you the room to come back, and that's the trust that great drivers have.
And I mean, does it show progress that you've made with the Toyota? I know you had some problems this morning, but does it show some real progress in the car?
Yeah, definitely. We worked really hard over the 4-week summer break. We lightened the rear end of the car, which has given us much less inertia in the car, makes the car more controllable. We've completely redone the throttle mapping on the car with MBE as well, which has again improved the car, the drivability of the car. So we've definitely gained a bit of time. We've definitely gained a lot of drivability. We're not quite where we want to be yet, but we've made great steps in the right direction.
Tim's just referenced the fact that you had a few problems in that session, as in the car sat in the garage, basically. What was the issue, first of all, and also how much of an issue is that? Because it was a bit of a damp session anyway. How much of a concern the loss of track time?
Yeah, I think, Knock Hill is very demanding on cars, especially that certain chicane, which, as Tim was very kind to me about my line through there, that I managed to sneak in, in the middle of that race. And we've got a power steering issue, so we think we've effectively broken the rack. Not fully broken it, but we also knew that session, it was going to start wet. It might have dried, it might not have dried. It's the perfect time to change the rack. I don't believe anyone learned anything really significant in that session. I hope they didn't anyway. But the guys are doing a great job. They'll get the car ready for qualifying. We'll be on our way again.
What are your thoughts looking ahead to qualifying? I just have this vision here of you sitting in a pit lane going nowhere last time we were here. Obviously things have changed, but give us briefly your thoughts for looking ahead to qualifying.
Yeah, I don't want to see Sam in front of me in the pit lane again. We want to be able to get out there and do our best. A little bit different this weekend, saving of the tyres so far this year. We've saved one set, so we're going to have to use them strategically. We threw a set at it for Knock Hill Race 3 because we knew we were on pole. So, we'll send it and see what happens.
Looking forward to it. We'll see you out there.
Thanks very much.
So qualifying is set to get underway. Road is drying a little bit. And these are the two groups based on the order at the end of free practice 2. Mikey Doble went fastest by 0.06 of a second on the last lap of the session. So he puts himself into Group 1 with Dan Camish, Andrew Watson, Aaron Taylor-Smith, Aidan Moffat, Tom Ingram, Sam Osborne, Scott Sampton, Nick Halstead and Tom Chilton. He spent time in the pits in FP2 changing the throttle body on the car. That's why he's a long way down. Group 2, Dan Rowbottom, Ash Sutton, Jake Hill, Chris Smiley, Adam Morgan, Colin Turkington, newcomer Dan Zelos, Darryl De Leon, Josh Cook, who was in and out playing with tyres, really. That's why he was a long way back, not going for a time, and Rob Huff, who never got out at all, as you just heard. So two really interesting groups coming into this session. and Tim Harvey, a track surface that's quite interesting because it's been really wet, dry, wet again, drying.
Exactly that, and very difficult for front-wheel drive cars because they need time to get the tyres up to temperature. They can see a drying line there before they cross them over. The rear-wheel drive cars will just stay out. I'm assuming that they will go out on slicks and try and build some temperature into them, but it's really touch and go.
Now, for this part of qualifying, we have the first 10 cars venturing onto the circuits, the second group of 10 to come after this 10-minute stanza is done. And for this qualifying session, you've got 2 slick tyre compounds to choose from.
Yes, they're allowed a free choice of tyres, so they've been saving tyres coming into this. Tomorrow in the racing, all the racing will be done on the yellow sidewall medium tyre, but for qualifying they're allowed a free choice. So they've been saving some good soft tyres, but they're having to mix and match the sets, so you'll have a good left front and a not quite so good right rear. They've been working hard over previous races to stockpile some tyres for this and the next 2 races where they have this free choice of tyres, but obviously the soft tyre is the fastest tyre that you're going to see for qualifying.
Now, longer lap as well here. Of course, when we were at Donington at the start of the season, it was the just under 2 mile long lap. Here, 2.5 miles. In 10 minutes, not that many laps can be done.
No, very little. You can't really do a whole sequence of warming, crossing, tyres on a front-wheel drive car on 2 different types of tyre. You might have time to come in and put a new pair of fronts on, but very little time on such a long lap. That advantage gives a bit of an advantage to the BMWs, but you can see the cars working hard to get temperatures straight away. This is on board with Ingram.
And in terms of hybrid, it's championship based, of course, and for qualifying it is time per lap, not number of laps, but time per lap. So 1 second of hybrid for Tom Ingram, 3 seconds a lap for Jake Hill, 5 seconds a lap Ash Sutton, 7 seconds a lap for Dan Camish, 9 a lap for Colin Turkington, 11 seconds for Josh Cook, 13 for Rob Huff, everybody else on the full 15-second allocation. So 8 minutes to go, 2 minutes have elapsed and nobody has even gone on to a flying lap. This again illustrates the point we're making. 10 minutes really doesn't give you much scope for many laps, and the drivers are finding out where the dry part of the circuit is, whether it's consistent all the way around. And there, Dan Camish, one that goes for the pit lane at the end of that outlap.
Well, there are no BMWs in this first group. They're all in the second group. But some people are just trying to get more temperature in that tyre before they cross it. They're mindful, actually, that the quickest time the track will be, if it stays dry, will be that last minute of this 10-minute session anyway. So you might as well spend a bit more time warming your tyres before you cross them. And Ingram's actually going pretty quickly, even at this early stage. Bear in mind, he hasn't had a chance to cross those tyres over and get some heat in the rears. He's going reasonably quickly.
In the first free practice session, it was Dan Camish who was the quickest driver, and that was the quicker session. It was drying out, whereas it was a sort of mixed track surface for the second one, Mikey Doble being the fastest driver in FP2. And remember, 10 cars in this group, but only 6 will progress. We've yet to get a lap time out of anybody, and we are already at less than 7 minutes to go.
Yeah, and with the long circuit here, the big acceleration out of the chicane, and most significantly the 2 hairpins, the first of which, the Melbourne hairpin, leads to a long uphill section, is very much like Knockhill, when we saw how powerful the hybrid effect was there. So out of this next corner, the use of hybrid, of which Ingram only has 1 second, we're looking at Chiltern, could give a significant advantage, as much as 3/4 of a second over someone with 15 seconds to Ingram with only 1.
Right, so Chiltern coming up towards the left-hander of Goddard's, making his way up towards the timing line, with Andrew Watson heading for the pit lane, getting out of his way. So over the line goes Tom Chiltern, and Tom Ingram also down towards Redgate Corner. Ingram offers up the best lap time of a 1:42.709, and Chiltern behind him is 6/10 slower.
And interestingly, Ingram still hasn't crossed his tyres over. He looks to have slowed up a little bit maybe on this lap, but it's interesting that he's choosing to stay out, because normally a driver of a front-wheel drive car, particularly on a damp-ish track, just doesn't like cold tyres on the rear, but the soft tyre obviously grips a little bit quicker and a little bit better than a medium tyre, so he's obviously got some confidence to push even in these conditions.
So Tom Ingram up towards McLean's, and he was about 0.6 of a second quicker than Tom Chilton, Nick Halstead and Aidan Moffat, the other two drivers that have done a lap time.
But a significant, I mean, the pace of a pure dry lap on slicks last year, the qualifying record was, obviously it was the first time we'd raced back here, was a 33.1. So they're 9 seconds away from that.
So plenty of time to come as the road dries, and it will get drier, of course, all the way through qualifying. So Q3 will, in theory, be the fastest element of this. So we've already tipped past the halfway mark. Look at this, less than 5 minutes to go as Tom Ingram finds where the wet patches are down at the Melbourne Hairpin, and you get the feeling as well that it's not consistently dry nor wet all the way around. Some parts of the circuit are wetter than others. Yeah, he's going in this lap, I think, that Strange has chosen to drive on the damp part of the track because you'd want to keep all the heat you possibly could in those tyres, and driving over the wet bit certainly doesn't do that. Mikey Doble through, Nick Halstead through, Aaron Taylor-Smith, another one to keep an eye on in this session, and Tom Chilton, on that last lap, was a little bit slower. There is Aidan Moffat, who hasn't been, with respect to him, a great qualifier this year. He's only got himself into Q2 once this year. He jokes about the fact that he doesn't want to work too hard on a Saturday, so just 10 minutes will do him. But, of course, the better you qualify, the better your chances going into race 1 and into race 2. Aidan Moffat, then, who, in theory, ought to go well on a slippery surface. He always says he likes that sort of intermediate stage. It takes him back to his early days of oval racing on less than ideal track surfaces, and he has gone well on a greasy track in the past in a touring car. But he's in the pit right now, and we're down to 3.5 minutes to go. Only 4 of our 10 have set a time. Yeah, and I mean, Ingram, by the time he comes up and gets round, he's going to be lucky to get 2 laps in, isn't he? Yeah. Sam Osborne, though, has done a personal best and an absolute best. The absolute best is the key to all of this, because it's quicker than anybody else within that middle sector, through which most drivers have gone on a push lap now. Sam Osborne coming out of the left-hander of Goddard's up towards the timing line, so let's see where this is going to put him in relation to Ingram's 42.7. Second fastest for Sam Osborne, a 10th shy, 1:42.8. Good effort, but as I said, some 9 seconds away from an ultimate lap time. Which actually probably would be beaten if we had pure dry conditions here today. Normal line round the last corner is to go very deep and cut back, but to get a good run onto the start-finish line. But of course that section of the track's a bit wetter than the normal racing line, so they're all sticking to the racing line. Dan Camish goes 5th as he comes across the line. So Ingram, Osborne, Chilton, Halstead, Camish, Moffat are the 6 with a time. Now that all changes because Aaron Taylor-Smith has just gone up to 5th fastest. So Aidan Moffat, for the moment, is pushed out of all of this. A lap time at the moment is 1:42.7. That's the best, and we've got just over, as you can see, 2 minutes on the clock. Yeah, I'm thinking on it now. I think Ingram may have been on wets to start with. I think he might have been on wets. The fact he stayed out, and a wet tyre time is usually 9-10 seconds slower. It's one possibly that Louise can research from the pit lane. Either now or assuming he goes through into Q2 between sessions. But Ingram remains the fastest, having put that banker lap in. Mikey Doble there heading up towards us in the Evans Halshaw with Power Max Racing Vauxhall Astra, and he has done the absolute best within Sector 1. Dan Camish has used all of his hybrid for the lap, and it's Camish ahead on the lights to get the traffic out of the way. Andrew Watson has just rejoined the session, so also back on track is Tom Ingram, but the clock is ticking down. These drivers will get one more lap out of it, but there is less than a lap time left in the session. They will cross the line before the flag comes out, and you can see that Mikey Doble is on the headlights to try to warn Dan Camish of his progress, and he encounters Camish down at the hairpin, and that's going to take just a little bit of time out of Doble's lap. He's going to try and pick his way through. Gets past the Toyota in the background as well. So Mikey Doble, one more corner to go, but has, finding traffic at the Melbourne hairpin, really spoilt the lap for him. We'll find out as he comes up towards the line. Camish is 6th. That's good enough, but only just. He's on the bubble. Mikey Doble, yet to do a lap time, goes quickest of all, 1:42.456. 2/10 quicker than Ingram.
Well, Mikey Doble set the fastest lap right at the end of Q2 on a set of slicks, and that lap was a 42.8, so very similar to what he's just done.
Yeah.
So I think he was on slicks, and maybe the others were on a bit set of worn wets.
Yeah, possibly so. So the man that was quickest in free practice 2 tops Q1 Group 1. But is he going to remain there? We've got 23 seconds on the clock, and right now, Camish, Moffat, Scott Sumpton and Andrew Watson are those that are out. Nick Halstead is 6th and could get himself through into Q2 for the first time this season, depending on what people can pull out of the bag on the last lap, with Mikey Doble doing another absolute best on this final lap of the session because he has done it in Sector 1.
I reckon he's the only one on slicks, if you ask me, but we will see. The rate at which he caught Camish and passed Camish, who was on a lap himself, which is why he didn't want to give up that position, intimated there was a difference in tyre.
So this is Dan Camish, heading now down towards the S's. Mikey Doble in that flying Vauxhall, 2 absolute bests now. Camish has got to deliver on this lap because he's out of the top 6. He's out of Q2 unless this is good enough to get him ahead of Nick Halstead. Now, Camish has got to find 1.901 seconds in order to get himself ahead of Nick Halstead, so it's quite a difference. Is there enough in those sectors? Camish up towards Goddard's then. He'll take the checkered flag and either progress to Q2 or become a spectator. And the line through the corner has a twitch in it. He's having to fight the car, given how slippery it still is there. Up towards the line comes Dan Camish. This lap will determine where he ends up in qualifying. He's through because he's up to 4th, so he will progress, assuming he doesn't get bumped out of the top 6 by those behind, as Taylor Smith goes 2nd, and that pushes Camish down to 5th. So...
But still, Halstead, Sumpton, Watson not running to cross the line. Here comes Sumpton.
Yeah, who ended up being the independent winner at Knockhill in race 3, and he crosses the line, ends up 9th, doesn't go through. What about Andrew Watson? It'll be his only lap time of the session. Is it good enough for the top 6? He comes across the line, it's only 9th. So Andrew Watson doesn't make it through. That gives us Doble, Taylor Smith. It's a power maxed 1-2. Ingram 3rd, Osborne 4th, Camish 5th, Chilton 6th. They are the drivers that will progress, and we lose Halstead, Moffat again, Watson and Sumpton. So Aidan Moffat, yet again, will be frustrated, but qualified just has not been his forte this year for whatever reason. You can put this down, no doubt, in part to the track surface, but he's a far better racer than qualifier. Having said all of that, don't forget he was a winner here in the reverse grid race at the start of the year. Mikey Doble, pole position at Silverstone last year, 2nd in race 3 at Alton Park. He's not yet been a race winner, but just like Aaron Taylor Smith, he's proved how quick he is. And although some people regard the Astra as an old car these days, it can still deliver.
Absolutely, very much so this year. Of course, that car using the M Sport engine, which received a little bit of help during the course of the year to put it more on a par with some of the independently tuned engines. But certainly the work that Evans Chalshaw and PowerMax have done on the cars has made them, genuinely competitive this year. Aidan Moffat unfortunately continues that unfortunate streak of not making it through. His day is done.
It is indeed. So Aidan Moffat got through to Q2 at Alton Park, but that's the only occasion. Mikey Doble then will go through for the 5th time this season. Aaron Taylor Smith making it through as well, and for him that is a 6th appearance in Q2. Tom Ingram didn't do it at Knockhill, but he has done it here, so a 6th appearance in Q2 for Ingram. Sam Osborne, that's only his 2nd appearance in Q2, and the other one was at Donington at the very start of the year.
Yeah, and some information kindly supplied by Jade Edwards in the pit lane. Mikey Doble was on slicks, as was Aidan Moffat and Watson. Ingram started on wets, but went to slicks too late.
So that clarifies who did what, and this confirms that Mikey Doble is the fastest and goes through to Q2 with Aaron Taylor Smith, Tom Ingram, Sam Osborne, Dan Camish and Tom Chilton. So we lose Nick Halstead, Aidan Moffat, Andrew Watson and Scott Sumpton. And those drivers in Group 2 will have been taking a really keen interest in those times and indeed what the track surface was like.
Well, they will have now seen that the quickest tyre to be on is the slick. They won't make that same mistake. The first group have been the guinea pigs. Let's hear what Lou has got to find out in the pit lane.
Well, I've come down to have a word with Dan Camish. Dan, tricky session. That was a last gasp, do or die, wasn't it?
honestly, the stress, it's unbelievable. I mean, could you have picked a worse time to have it go from wets to slicks? We've been so quick all day, and then you're faced with that whole new challenge of, are you on the right tyre when it really matters? I'm glad that we went with the slick. It was the right choice, but boy, is it treacherous. And the car, even at the end there, was like on ice. You know, when Doble caught me and passed me, you know, it's like he was driving a different animal. So much more grip and purchase than what I could find. I'm hoping now, if it, you know, hopefully the weather stays dry, the track gets fully dry, we can get some proper temp into the rear of the car, and then we'll have a better chance, because that just felt like, you know, please keep it on the tarmac, and also you need to speed up because you are out. So not a nice feeling, to be honest.
Your rivals are out on stalks.
It's a lap where you just know, it's like, you know, I've got to be on the verge of dropping this car or we're going to be nowhere, but equally I need to get it to the line, and you know, I feel like I'm holding onto the steering wheel harder than I have been for ever. So funny session. I'm glad to be through it, and now, you know, but I look behind you and that blue sky that was there 5 minutes ago has gone grey again. So typical British summer, I'm afraid.
Let you catch your breath before the next one. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Louise. Right, so Dan Camish does breathe a sigh of relief. Those cars that we've identified thus far are out on slicks, which is no surprise, really, given what we saw at the end of that previous group. So BMWs you're looking at: Colin Turkington, Adam Morgan and Jake Hill, and Dan Rowbottom's Napa Racing UK Ford Focus on the back of that. Robo looked as though he was going to top the times in FP2, but lost out on the last lap by 6,000ths to Mikey Doble, who's having a really good day thus far. Right, BMWs ought to offer up the target time. Which one will it be, though?
Yeah, and Sam Riches and Jade confirming in the pit lane. Everyone now out on slick tyres. Rowbottom, again, we've been saying this for a while, but a real contender for pole position with the maximum allocation of hybrid and the Napa cars. Now that's a bit more traditional. See that little wide line into the final corner to straight. Oh, it didn't help. Which I'm not sure which of the BMs was at the front there, whether it was Turkington or Morgan, but had a big twitch coming out the corner. Front-wheel drive cars heading to the pit lane in normal slick style to cross them over.
Although Rob Huff stays out, Chris Smiley stays out, Darryl De Leon stays out, trying to get a bit more warmth in before that cross comes. Right, Ash Sutton tiptoes down through the Craner curves. It's drying, but it's certainly not dry.
Definitely not dry yet, but the corners you can lean on it and get the heat into the tyre like there help you enormously. But you also want to get it into the right-hand side tyres, and of course you've only got 3 odd right-hand tyres. Now you see the tyre cross, left front to right rear, right front to left rear.
Meantime, Ash Sutton turns his way out of McLean's corner, and the reigning champion heads up the hill, eager for points, of course, this weekend, third in the title race. And as he heads out of that double apex right of Coppice, there you've got Rob Huff, who didn't pit. He again is trying to stay out there and get the warmth into the rubber. Chris Smiley, Darryl De Leon behind. They're doing the same thing. And Rob Huff quickest thus far within the first sector, but it's only really as the session unwinds that we start to see the relevance of these purples. But we're already down to 6.5 minutes.
Yeah, interesting when it's slightly damp or wet. We don't get the track limit infringements, do we? Because people know that there's low grip on the curbs and outside of the corners. 4 places here where we have sensors and cameras, this being an MSV circuit. So far, no penalties. But we haven't seen Dan Rowbottom up to speed yet.
No, who I'm afraid to say has been one of the key transgressors over the course of the season. And we'll find out how he fares in these remaining 6 minutes. Second place in that middle race at Knock Hill, best result of the year. There over the timing line is Adam Morgan, who has just done a 1:45.3.
But these are very much lap build, tyre temperature building laps for the BMWs. They will not push too hard too soon. They'll be aiming to get the most temperature in it and work towards the last couple of laps, and certainly not drop the car before they get there.
Right, so Adam Morgan heads now down through the old hairpin. Colin Turkington, Jake Hill also on flying laps at the moment. Adam Morgan quicker again within sector 1, so this will be quicker than it was the previous lap through, but it's the front-wheel drive contingent we need to be looking at. And, of course, within that group is Dan Zelos, having his first outing in the British Touring Car Championship and the first time he's had to cope with qualifying. Add to which the track surface. I mean, it's just so cruel on the guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to need to call on all his natural racing instincts. There he is, car number 45. Obviously the same car that Ronan Pearson was driving. He's a replacement driver, not a substitute driver. So he carries the same hybrid penalty, if you like, that would have been, and the same tyres that would have been allocated to Ronan Pearson.
Right, so up towards the line comes Dan Zelos now, heads over the timing line, breaks the beam, goes through and starts a proper flying lap this time. Adam Morgan's best lap is a 1:45.3. Daryl De Leon within this group, benefiting this weekend from driver coaching from Bobby Thompson, helping him to, if you like, focus on the driving and take some of, as Bobby described it earlier on in the day, the unclutter out of his mind, just to try and let Daryl concentrate on the driving bit, not have to worry about lots of peripheral things. Adam Morgan's lap then is now down to the 1:39s, and Josh Cook has done a purple sector, sector 1. So a quick-looking Toyota is there from Josh Cook, and we know that Josh is a rapid driver. And remember, Knockhill, when damage put him out of race 3, he was all fired up then and will be all fired up this weekend too.
Yeah, and with the track time, the lap time is quicker than the first group, so we know the circuit is improving. And once again, at least they haven't got the tyre question mark that we had in that first group. The uncertainty's gone, but these guys know it'll all be down to the last lap.
So Josh Cook comes now out of the Melbourne hairpin, heads now towards Goddard's with just over 3 minutes and 25 seconds on the clock. This ought to be a decent enough lap for Josh Cook to get him into the top 6, but getting in is one thing, staying in is quite another, especially when the road is drying, it's getting quicker, and you've got other drivers desperate to be within that quick 6. Cook goes fastest then now, 1:38.676, fastest lap of Group 2.
But the laps will get quicker every lap. You've not only got to deliver it once, you've got to deliver it literally every lap now until the flag comes out. Full quali lap every single lap until you see the checker.
Colin Turkington you can never discount, and he has done an absolute best sector 1, but a little bit of time lost in the middle. Dan Zelos has put himself into the top 6, so is Dan Rowbottom now to go fourth. So Cook, Morgan, Turkington, Rowbottom, Hill, Zelos, and Ash Sutton out of the top 6, but doing purple sectors. So that order is going to shuffle as every car crosses the line.
Yeah, I mean, these conditions do suit the guys in a way with less hybrid to use. That is, of course, Ingram, Hill, Sutton, Camish, because of the slightly indifferent conditions.
And Hill goes up to 2nd, Turkington up to 4th on that lap. There is Sutton, who on this lap ought to get himself a proper lap time, and it could well put him into the top 6 as he bites the curve. Coming into Coppice, there's the 2nd apex, and now the run down towards the Fogarty S's. 2 minutes of the session remain.
He was fastest in the first sector, but now Morgan is now fastest in... No, sorry, I say again, Turkington quickest in first sector. Changing as quickly as we can say it.
With, at the moment, outside that top 6, Sutton, Huff, Smiley and De Leon. So we'll see how in just under 2 minutes' time the order looks, because the top 6 is still up for grabs. This is Sutton. He should get through, and he makes the run towards Goddard's.
But look at the clock, 1:40. He's only going to get one more lap. There will be only time left for one lap. Had he been 5 or 6 seconds further up the road, he'd have got 2 laps. So he's only going to get one.
Cook goes through, goes quicker again. Huff up to 2nd, Sutton up to 2nd. So Cook, Sutton, Huff, Morgan, Hill, Turkington is the top 6. Rowbottom is out, not for long. Yes, he is out, because now Smiley goes up to 6th. That's Turkington gone as well for the moment. Turkington out, Rowbottom out, Zelos out. De Leon has yet to do a lap time. We'll see where it puts him when he crosses the line. This is going to be a really fascinating last lap for everybody. Dan Zelos has had a lap time taken off him for track limits. There's proof that it's drying out. Adam Morgan goes back to the top on a 1:36.3 now.
Yeah, and those crossing the line sort of in the next 50 seconds will have the best advantage, because they're getting not only this lap on near dry conditions, but another one. They'll be the last ones to cross with a lap of lap time left will be in the best position.
Right, so at the moment, Rowbottom, De Leon, Smiley and Zelos are the ones that we lose. Rob Huff is on the bubble 6th, and he's 8/10 up on Rowbottom.
BMW's 1, 2, 3 at the moment.
Yeah, indeed. Dan Zelos being warned about track limits once more as you look at Rob Huff flick through the S's, then onto the Grand Prix loop. Raced here in the World Touring Car Championship on this configuration of the circuit, but that was a long, long time ago. Drops down to the hairpin now.
Missed the second session as the team were replacing the steering rack, a persistent problem or niggling problem that Huffy has felt for a while, but required the engine out. But Team Speedworks done a great job to get that changed. Didn't miss much because it was a wet session anyway.
So Huff on the bubble, Rowbottom there, trying to get into the top 6. Checkered flag, he's out. And Rob Huff has gone across the line to go quickest. 1:35.915. That puts Jake Hill on the bubble now, 6th quickest. So Sutton fastest now by 53 thousandths ahead of Huff. Next car through is Chris Smiley. He ends up 7th, doesn't go through. What about Dan Rowbottom? Can he get there? Number 32 forward with all of the hybrid, back into the top 6, heads up towards the line, goes through, and stays 8th fastest. So Dan Rowbottom, in fact, he drops to 9th now because Adam Morgan has gone back to the top, 1:35.7. So Dan Rowbottom out of qualifying. So is De Leon, Smiley and Zelos seemingly. Jake Hill goes to the top of the times now, 1:35.278. Jake Hill now the fastest.
There you go, BMW 1, 2, 3 again after Sutton Huff were quicker, but they just had their timing right on the track to get the last of it. And of course, they haven't even stopped. They've been out the whole session building temperature in the tyres. Here comes Cookie, absolutely flinging the car through the chicane. That was right on the limit. He had the fastest first sector on this lap of anyone. Not a personal best in sector 2.
He's the last driver to take the checkered flag, and he's 6th anyway. So he's
in anyway.
Already going to go through. It's where he is within this 6, but he's done it. He's done enough. But this might, as you say, be the fastest lap of Group 2. We'll find out in a moment, because as he comes up towards the timing line now, Josh Cook is aiming for better than a 1:35.2, and as he breaks the beam, he ends up 2nd on a 1:35.3. But he was in that top 6 anyway. Rob Huff was the man in the end on the bubble, and he was only 8 tenths up on Daryl De Leon. So we lose De Leon, Chris Smiley, Dan Rowbottom, and he'll be fuming, and Dan Zelos, who perhaps is not surprised, given that there was an awful lot to learn on a difficult track surface in his first ever touring car qualifying session.
Yeah, Dan Rowbottom will be the one really upset. 2nd quickest again in both free practices. He's becoming the free practice king, and not delivering in qualifying, isn't it? But with a full allocation and then Napa racing forward underneath him, he should have been able to get that through in the top 6. But it was a tough group, a lot of very quick cars in that group, but he'll be kicking himself, I'm sure. Dan Zelos, perhaps not surprisingly slowest of the group, an awfully big learning curve, and he hasn't done any laps on slicks so far this weekend, apart from just scrubbing the tops off his tyres in a damp free practice. So not easy to find the limits of the car.
But he's not here necessarily to prove he's a hero. You know, in qualifying, 3 good races will impress the team more than maybe 1 lap in a difficult qualifying session. So Jake Hill, Josh Cook, Colin Turkington, Adam Morgan, Ash Sutton and Rob Huff are the drivers who progress, and they were covered by just 6 tenths of a second. Daryl De Leon out, so too Chris Smiley, so too Dan Rowbottom and Dan Zelos. So Jake Hill goes through into Q2 for the 8th time this season. Josh Cook, who's been another regular, he makes it through also for the 8th time. So in other words, he's made it through for each occasion. So too has Colin Turkington, who was 3rd in that group. Adam Morgan goes through. That's his 6th visit to Q2. For Ash Sutton, it's also an 8th. And for Rob Huff, his qualifying season has been a bit more difficult, and he's into Q2 for the 5th time. So, drivers looking up and down the pit lane, possibly wanting a weather update as well now from their engineers. Remember what Dan Camish said a little while ago, just over 10 minutes ago, about that blue sky now becoming grey once more. The British weather gods continue to tease at Donington. Remember how wet it was when we lost races and had those big delays back in April? Not suggesting it's going to be like that this weekend, but you just can't rely on anything, can you?
You certainly can't. But the one thing about this qualifying format is it relies a lot more on the team, the engineer, to give information based on what they found on other cars, how quickly they warm the tyres up, what the weather's doing. It's quite a team effort, this 3-part qualifying session.
True enough, yeah.
But we're still 2 seconds off the ultimate time. But Lou has more reaction in the pit lane from Dan Zelos.
Dan, as qualifying sessions go, they do not come much more difficult than that one, do they?
Yeah, definitely got thrown in the deep end there a little bit, and you know, I don't want to be throwing the new car I've been given for the weekend off in qualifying. So yeah, we're a bit off the pace, but for my first dry run in the car, we're back in one piece, so now we can build on this for tomorrow.
You're sounding really frustrated, a bit despondent.
You know, I was hoping the rain was going to carry on, so I would have felt so much more comfortable in the rain again after having this morning out and that. But, you know, and I always want to be on the pace straight away. I'm competitive, but this is where we're at. We've got work to do, stuff to learn, and we'll come back stronger tomorrow.
What was the car like in the dry? Because that was, the first time you've experienced it, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Quite sketchy, to be fair. I can tell the car's fast. I can tell that I've just got to adapt to it. So, the team have done a great job today and have brought me on leaps and bounds throughout the day. So it's a big thanks to Team Bristol Street Motors to them. And we'll go and do our homework tonight, and I'll get a good night's rest, and we'll go full attack tomorrow.
I bet you don't get a good night's rest, but we'll see you out there tomorrow anyway. Back to you guys.
Dan Zelos then ends his first touring car qualifying session. Of course, whether we see him for the remainder of the season has not yet been announced. So hopefully we will, because the more mileage he does, the more he'll learn, the better he will become. And as Tim made the point earlier on, it's been such a long wait to get into the championship. It would be a real shame if it were just for one weekend. So, quick reminder, Q2 is imminent. It will be 10 minutes again. And this time the road just slightly busier. 12 cars we will have with those top 6 from the 2 groups going head to head. Engines are firing up in the pit lane. The green flag is imminent to get this next part of the session underway. And from 12, it is 6 that will go through. Daryl De Leon, one of those that just missed out in the Duckham's Racing with Unlimited Motorsport, new slightly tweaked name for the team this weekend. But the Cupra, I'm afraid, not quite into that top 6, but Daryl De Leon went well here back at the start of the season. And that's a team that has been getting better and better as the season has worn on, and came oh so close to an independence win at Knock Hill. Won on the road and then failed the dreaded ride height test, and that was therefore given the win to Scott Sumpton. Jake Hill then is good to go. And on instruction, the cars will be pulled back into the fast lane, and qualifying is going to be back underway then. 10 minutes, Q2. Everybody looking at their watches, everyone waiting for the signal of the klaxon, of the green light at the end of the pit lane, and then we'll be in business. Let's go, say the teams. Q2 is underway.
Yeah, a very newish looking set of soft tyres on that Laser Tools BMW. And of course, those with less hybrid need more tyre advantage, that they can possibly put their best tyres on now and in the final session, because they haven't got the advantage of having more hybrid to lead on.
So everybody venturing out onto the circuit from those 12. 3 Napa Fords at the front of the queue, with Sam Osborne part of that trio this time. And now a chance to get some clear track space, to get the tyres up to temperature. The road will be, for some drivers, drier than they experienced it in Group 1 of Q1. So they're learning about how it's changed.
Yeah, good point, David. It's been a while since they've been out, and they'll suddenly find it's actually, and some of them, don't forget, in session 1, hardly got out on slicks at all. So it will be, but we're still 2 seconds off the ultimate time. So they're going to have to push and find the limits, even though it's not ideal conditions.
And to a degree, drivers, I assume, are going to want to try and have some clear track space, because if you need to go offline to overtake a car, you go on the damp bit and you cool your tyres and you're on a slippery part of the track. You don't want to be off that dry line at all.
Yeah, and the drivers that are being passed don't want to move over either. So
yeah, true. So everybody will be lagging back, trying to buy themselves some space. Right, so then the field released and Q2 underway. A very frustrated Dan Rowbottom, though, is another spectator. The consolation is he can talk to Louise.
I'm not quite sure that he thinks talking to me is a consolation, but thank you for doing so anyway, Dan. Frustration, I know, because you were expecting or hoping a lot more from that session.
Yeah, I mean, I was expecting a lot from today, really. We've saved a lot of soft tyres for the, for the new qualifying regulation. We've got a load of hybrid, and we can't put it to use. So I don't know what happened. We were really quick all morning in the wet, but as soon as we put the slick tyre on, then we just really struggled for rear tyre temp. I think I could have drove around all day and not found enough temp to do the times that we needed to do. So I don't know at the minute. We've got to look at the data and see what the difference is. But the car felt okay, just really loose, Well,
and I was going to say, what is the impact? But that's it, isn't it? If you haven't got the rear temperature in the tyres, you've just got no grip there.
No, and the problem is when it's like that, it's a never-ending cycle of problems, because you can't push, you can't keep rear tyre temp, so the temperature is not getting any more or any less. It's staying stable, but not enough. So I don't know. We'll have to look at the data. It's obviously really disappointing, but we've had bad weekends before. We'll have to try and come back.
Hope for a better one tomorrow.
So big frustration for Dan Rowbottom, but that's the explanation. It was a loose rear and not being able to get the tyre temperature up, but the other Fords achieved it.
Yeah, I mean, whether they did different warm-up techniques or something, or slightly different setups, I don't know. I mean, one advantage the second group of cars have now is that in actual fact, they could leave the rears on rather than cross them and just put new fronts on, because they've already got some temperature in the rears, whereas the cars that have been sitting in the pit lane longer have got no temperature in their rears.
This is Tom Ingram trying to work his way through the traffic, getting himself some clear track space, coming down to the S's now. And with an outlap, and we've heard from a driver, we are already down to 6.5 minutes. So, as we often say in this qualifying, time flies. One thing it has done, and you've heard the drivers talk about it session after session, with the pressure being applied, it focuses the effort. Only once have we had a red flag out of qualifying this year.
Yeah, that's quite incredible, actually, given the amount of times these guys have to press for a fast lap. Josh Cook in that last session coming across the line last and popping it up to second, proving the theory that the last car across the line does have a big advantage. It'll be the same now, but not probably quite as much, but it'll still be those last 2 laps, I fancy, that will be the decider for who goes through to the final 6.
It's going to be another fascinating 6 minutes, which is all we've got left now as the road continues to dry at Donington. All we need now is just another sprinkling of rain for the final part, don't we? This is Ash Sutton's view. He's coming out of the old hairpin. He's quicker than anybody thus far within that first sector. And we have had 4 drivers do a lap time. So now these sector times start to mean something.
Yeah, no, I don't think Ash crossed his tyres, did he? So he stayed out with those warm rears on from the last session. I'd love to have heard his throttle trace, or seen his throttle trace and heard his throttle down through the Craner curves, because that shows you just how brave the driver is and how much confidence, crucially, he has in the rear, and the right rear, particularly when you lean on it going down the Craner curves.
And he's also got clear track space, because although there is a car up the road, I don't think he's going to catch that before the end of this lap. We'll see, but it was looking pretty good for Ash Sutton. Adam Morgan so far is the fastest, but on a 1:39.6, which is a kind of start-up lap. But now, at the halfway point of Q2, 5 minutes to go, Sutton comes out of the Melbourne hairpin, and he's charging.
Yeah, very wide there. Couldn't quite get the lock unlocked, the steering unlocked. You want to try and do that in a front-wheel drive car as quickly as you possibly can to get the steering wheel straight so the tyres have the best footprint. He's going to come across the line now and go quickest with a 34.5. That's already quicker. That's beaten straight away by Turkington at 34.1. That's a second quicker than in Group 2. So they're now only a second really away and a bit from what I would have thought would be the ultimate time for the day.
With Josh Cook having done the absolute best within the first sector, so he's going to get himself in the mix now as well. And Q2 is often the most fascinating bit of qualifying, isn't it, where you've got 12 good drivers and you lose half of that number. So this really is pressure time. If we've said this year that Q1 is about not being slow, Q2 is most definitely about being quick.
Yeah. Cook was very spectacular to watch through the chicane. Now, the tyre barriers at the chicane are actually bolted to the ground. They are fairly generous, I think, in their positioning in terms of giving you lots of room to go through there. They're not right on the edge of the track, so I think the positioning is pretty generous. But Josh clipped that tyre, didn't he, with the left front there? He doesn't want to get any closer.
Up towards the timing line he comes. This will be Josh Cook's first flying lap of Q2, and it puts him second fastest then. So he is 0.06 of a second shy of Colin Turkington. It's going to be close, this.
It's going to be a really close session. A lot of very quick cars in there and very quick drivers. Right out to the edge of the painted red and white curb. You can go on that. Once you get on the green, there's a pressure sensor on the exit of turn 1, on the exit of the old hairpin, on the exit of McLean's to catch you out.
Now, more and more lap times are coming. The order continues to shuffle, and you can see on that timing tower who is in and who is out, and just under 3 minutes remain. Adam Morgan goes up to 5th, but we understand that that lap may be taken from him. This is the reason why. Big lock-up into the S's, and he skipped through the gravel. Now, yes, he's off the track, but in fact that was Colin Turkington, not Adam Morgan, wasn't it, going through the gravel. So Adam Morgan, we are looking at in the times being 6th. I was about to say, though, in the context of that BMW, it sort of self-penalises, because all locked up, you lose momentum through the gravel. He was slow rejoining. So yes, it's a track limit offence in a sense, but the penalty has already been taken by a slow lap by going through the gravel. But it was Turkington, not Morgan.
Yeah, but losing that, no real problem, because you wouldn't have been quicker anyway. But that is always the issue with BMWs, getting the front-wheel drive, front tyres up to temperature. Rear-wheel drive, of course, accelerating through the rear, they can get those up, but the front's harder for them to do. So locking up the fronts when you're pushing, always a problem when the tyres are cold on a BMW.
Josh Cook now fastest, a 1:33.9. Mikey Doble is 5th. And with an absolute best and a personal best, ought to be able to haul himself higher up that top 6, which will make him a little bit safer as he comes through Goddard's now, just over one more lap in the session. He might squeeze 2 out of this, depending on when he breaks the beam, minute 34, 33, 32. He might just be the first man to take the checkered flag.
Yeah, but that was a good lap, put him second at least. 1.5 tenths slower than Cook. So good lap from Doble. He has impressed this year.
Yes, absolutely. So at the moment, Huff, Morgan, Camish are out. Taylor Smith, Osborne and Chilton are out. And the flag will be out as well in just under 70 seconds' time. Now, pressure is really on, and it's on Dan Camish amongst others.
Yeah, and not a personal best in the first sector, so he needs to find something. Maybe we've got to, we'll hear his story after qualifying, but let's see where he ends up on this lap. I'm not seeing any. Oh, I am seeing a purple for Turkington on this lap on the first sector.
Jake Hill improved last time to get himself up to 4th. Ash Sutton is on the bubble. He is 6th, though Camish comes through with an improvement in the middle sector. So time lost, as Tim said, in sector 1, time pulled back in sector 2. And at the moment, he is 9th. So there's a lot of time to find to get himself up into that top 6. Josh Cook's just gone over the timing line, slightly slower that time around, but he's still in. So he doesn't have to necessarily improve. He was down by about 0.05 of a second, that's all. So Adam Morgan, another one trying to get into the top 6. Here comes Camish. Start of the lap, he was 9th. End of the lap, he's 5th. He's in, but only just.
But he crosses the line with 6 seconds to go on the lap time, on the clock. So he's got another lap. Now the checkered flag is out. So anyone crossing the line now, including Adam Morgan, and Ingram has gone across the line as well and taken the fastest lap time, but also the checkered flag.
Turkington 2nd, Cook 3rd, Mikey Doble 4th, Taylor Smith 5th, Morgan 6th. Though we've lost Hill, Camish, Sutton, Chilton, Huff and Osborne at the moment, but not all of those have taken the flag. So this is Ash Sutton, 9th. Jake Hill has just gone across the line. He's 6th. And to take the checkered flag, that is his session done. So Hill is the one on the bubble. Here is Sutton, up towards the line, goes through, and he's 4th, and that pushes Jake Hill out. So Ash Sutton is in at the expense of Hill. There are others, though, still pushing, still trying to use that hybrid. Dan Camish being one of them. Rob Huff, Sam Osborne, they've yet to complete the session as well. So we're not done yet.
No personal best for Camish in that first sector, so he's still on the lap.
And Jake Hill will be getting the news that that's your day done. But here is Dan Camish with traffic up the road as well. He's got 2 corners of the lap to go. And have a look up the road. Cars at least, I think that is Josh Cook, first of all, keeping out of the way. Josh 3rd, so he's made it through. But Dan Camish still 9th, and he's got to improve. With again, look, the time a little bit down in sector 1. He pulled some back in sector 2. He pulls the pin coming out of Goddard's last chance saloon for Dan Camish across the line, stays 9th. We've lost Camish as well.
So Hill and Camish out.
And Huff is the last one to take the flag of note, and he goes through, but does not improve the lap. Mikey Doble behind him, 5th. So we've lost Huff as well. Some big names have gone in Q2 again.
Well, as we expected, because that top 12 are all quality drivers and quick drivers, but we've ended up with a top 6, a really interesting top 6. There's Josh Cook. He stopped a little early, but he's through. He's into the final 6 shootout. Jake Hill out. But of course we know what can happen in the last 6, and we know what can happen in those BMWs once we go racing. Ingram, though, very good lap that was, wasn't it? Yeah. With only the minimum of 1 second of hybrid. Wow, did he deliver a good lap.
And should we wave the flag briefly as well for Evans Halshaw with Power Max Racing? Both of the Vauxhalls are through, 5th and 6th, but they're through. Mikey Doble and Ara Taylor Smith. That whole package really is clicking this year. 2 very quick drivers. The cars have been reliable. They've had lots of Jack Sears Trophy and independent wins as well over the course of the year. And there's a spring in the step of that team as a collective that we've not really seen too much of in the past few seasons. It's a bit of a mixed bag of emotions, no doubt, at Napa Racing. Sam Osborne gone, Dan Camish gone, Dan Rowbottom had already gone, and Ash Sutton is the only one then that makes it through.
And the one with the least amount of hybrid.
Yes, just to rub it in.
Once again, Sutton showing his real quality.
68,000 were between Tom Ingram and Colin Turkington, and they go through into Q3. So does Josh Cook and Ash Sutton and Mikey Doble, joined by Aaron Taylor-Smith. Jake Hill, gone. Adam Morgan, out. Dan Camish, done. Tom Chilton sits out Q3 as well. So does Rob Huff. So does Sam Osborne. And we've got 10 more minutes for 6 drivers to determine the first 6 places on the grid. The road is drier than it has been all session. It'll be quicker than it has been all session. And as ever, there are some hard luck stories, but these final 10 minutes are going to be really interesting.
Now, lap time's just 7 tenths away from last year's pole time, so we're pretty much there, aren't we?
Almost there, yeah. So Jake Hill, who's suffering from food poisoning this weekend, second in the championship, gets out of the car. It's been a tough day all round, and being bumped out of qualifying won't make it any better for him. But he's mid-grid, could be worse, I suppose.
It could be worse, but it's in the potential danger zone for incidents. That's always the worry, and that's what the hybrid system was designed to do, wasn't it? To handicap those coming into the next race high up in the championship. Doesn't seem to have hurt Ingram and Sutton quite as much, does it?
No,
but it does definitely have a big effect.
Now let's go to the pit lane and hear the thoughts of a disappointed Jake Hill. He's with Louise.
A disappointed and still feeling pretty rough, Jake Hill. It's been a tough old day for you, hasn't it?
A little bit, yeah. But no, I mean, I'm still fairly happy with that. You know, P7 is not too bad. We're right on the edge of getting into Q3 there, but yeah, we just didn't have enough soft tyres to throw at it.
Was it just the soft tyres, or how much? Because I know you've been sleeping half the day. You're really not feeling very well. That must be making life difficult as well.
Yeah, I think so. When you're in the car, you don't notice it so much, but yeah, it's nice. But you know, when you get out, it feels like you've been hit by a train. So yeah, it's not the best feeling I've ever had, but hopefully we'll come back and we'll be fighting fit tomorrow. What
are your thoughts looking ahead to tomorrow? I mean, it's the first kind of dry running we've had, but where do you think the car's going to be at?
Car feels good. You know, I just you know, I don't know how many softs the front-wheel drive guys had, but obviously being front-wheel drive car, you can just front to rear them, and the fronts are like brand new again. So we tried to risk it with going on the same set of tyres for Q2, and the rear just started to break away, and I just didn't have enough grip underneath me, really. But, you know, I think the car's in a really good place. It feels great to drive, so I'm sure in the race tomorrow we'll be all right.
So with hindsight, if you played your tyre strategy differently, could we have had a very different outcome here?
Yeah, I think the risk was, you know, in Q1, so many people went soft and we didn't want to risk getting knocked out. So, but obviously Adam got through in Q1 on the mediums. So in hindsight, it would have been, you know, a good idea to go mediums for the first one. But you just don't know what the offset's going to be and how much faster the soft's going to play a part. So we had to play it safe, you know. And ultimately, it's not ended up bad. P7 is really not that bad at all. So let's just hope the others finish 5th and 6th in this one.
I'll let you go lie down with a cold towel.
Thank you.
So Jake Hill, you can tell he doesn't look well either, but his qualifying is done, and he didn't miss out by that much. In that last part of the session, Colin Turkington with 2 absolute best sector times, 1 for Tom Ingram, but it was Tom Ingram that did the best lap. Not the pole lap yet, because we need to see what happens out of Q3. 6 drivers then are good to go. The sun is breaking through, the road is continuing to dry, and this should be the fastest part of the qualifying hour there at Power Max Racing. The mechanics ready to pull back the cars to get them onto the pit lane, and Q3 is but moments from getting underway, and you've seen how rapidly that time flies. So we're almost good for the final part of qualifying. This new system for this year, which has been a big hit, I think, with the drivers and with the teams, and the green flag is shown. We're back in business.
Yeah, the only issue for me is we just do not know what tyres people are on. Not so much we don't know that they're almost certainly on softs, but we don't know what the life of those tyres is. You know, for example, if you got knocked out on lap 1 of a race at Knock Hill on soft tyres, you've got virtually new soft tyres to go to carry forward. So there's an irregularity in tyre usage amongst these guys because they're all used tyres. Whereas when you all start off with a brand new set, you know where you are. and I think this is having some effect on the mixing up the qualifying, and it will continue to do so because we've got this for the next 2 racing. I know we love unpredictability in the BTCC. Me as a racer, I want to know what's going on.
Indeed so, and of course all the other teams want to know what they're up against.
Yeah, exactly. You can't actually call it, and I'll tell you, the drivers that haven't done well will say, well, I didn't have very good tyres, and those that did do well will say, well, I was lucky enough to carry some good ones through. But they may then pay for it when they haven't got them, say at the final at Brands Hatch. Who's going to have the best tyres then?
Well, they could all be pretty used sets by then, couldn't they? We almost want some wet races now so they can preserve fresh sets. So the final part of qualifying back underway, 8.5 minutes on the clock as the field streams down through the S's. So you've got Ash Sutton within this, and come into the weekend 3rd in the championship. You've got Colin Turkington 5th in the championship. The championship leader Tom Ingram has made it through. Josh Cook, who is 6th in the championship, has made it through. And add to that Mikey Doble and Aaron Taylor-Smith, who are the dominant drivers within the independence contest this year.
So interesting. I mean, Jake's saying that he carried his tyres over from the second group of qualifying into that because they were already warm, and didn't try a better set potentially, or to save them for future races. What will the others have done for this session? A lot of weaving always indicates obviously cold tyres, but the BMWs pushing on. This is Turkington. He looks like he's got some temperature in those tyres already. He's pushing on pretty hard.
Yeah, there's confidence there, isn't there? You can see the way the car attacks the Cramer curves and the old hairpin as he accelerates now. Then Colin Turkington up towards Schwantz curve, then on towards McLean's. That right-hander with the road climbing uphill at this point. And that BMW is looking very strong indeed right now. 7 minutes and change on the clock. Turkington with the road to himself.
Yeah, lovely clear road, bright sunshine. Not so much of a worry about clipping damp patches. He can push on pretty much full chat everywhere. A slight bit of damp just at the final 2 hairpins, I would say. But everywhere else looking very nice. Watch the car through the chicane. Looks great through there, doesn't it?
It does, and he's already used all of the hybrid long before he got towards the S's then. So where the old bridge would have been, near the old exhibition centre, he used it all pretty much midway down Starkey Straight. Turkington then comes out of the Melbourne hairpin, although the absolute best within the middle sector that he had done has been taken off him by Ash Sutton. So straight away, they're trading quick sector times, these two. Champions both up towards the timing line they come. Turkington and Sutton then 2 of the star turns in the modern age of the British Touring Car Championship. Colin Turkington offers up the first flying lap, 1:34.2. Sutton goes quicker at 33.7.
Yeah, 33.7, a tenth quicker than Ingram went in the last session, so already a quick lap on the board. That's half a second quicker than Turkington's.
Ingram is in the pits, Doble is in the pits for Tarcross. Josh Cook and Aaron Taylor-Smith are the other two that have gone onto an out lap. So Turkington then comes out of the old hairpin, trying to put quicker and quicker lap times in whilst the front-wheel drive cars are having those tyres crossed. And he's on the limit again, isn't he? This is another serious push by Colin Turkington. You can see the way the car is moving around to know that he's fully committed to this.
Yeah, the attitude, as we call it, of the car. Hooked up, typical Colin, precision lap everywhere, just teetering on the edge of braking adhesion, just a perfectly balanced driver at one with his car. It's always lovely to watch. Whether or not this is the quickest lap or not, it's still a pleasure to watch. Look at the inch-perfect line through there.
It's another absolute best within the middle sector, even though he was down a touch within sector 1. Big flash of the lights. That means there's a car ahead, and it's to warn the driver, I'm fast approaching, and it's one of the Vauxhalls that he's going to come across in a moment, which is going to be the Mikey Doble car, I think, as he comes up past, sorry, Aaron Taylor-Smith it is that slots back in behind him now. So down through the left of Goddard's. Turkington aims to go quicker again. Now remember, it was a 34.2, but Sutton went faster anyway. And on that lap, Colin Turkington a 33.5, just under 2/10 ahead of Ash Sutton. But for how long? Josh Cook, meantime, heads up towards McLean's corner.
Remember now the front-wheel drive cars all cross their tyres and once round, and then they're on their flyers. And we're on board with Josh Cook coming out of McLean's, going up to Coppice. got to turn in before you can even see the apex there, but the modern BTCC car carrying that inside curve beautifully. It doesn't upset the car at all.
And hybrid used for Josh Cook. You can see the clock counting down through the time available. So it's all done, really 2/3 of the way through the lap. There's still quite a chunk of lap without the hybrid available. So the drivers have decided when it's best to use it, but they're not using any to, for example, drag themselves out of this hairpin with that climb or out of the last corner. It's all done before they hit the Grand Prix loop.
Yeah, I think they're using it coming out of Redgate and particularly coming out of the old hairpin, because that's the longest stretch of uphill that they face. So 11 seconds of use for Cookie, but he's used it all up. If you've got 15, you've probably got a bit left of that last bit.
But equally, how they use it on the qualifying lap is different from how they'll use it in the races. Over the line goes Josh Cook to go second then. Turkington, Cook, Sutton is the order. Aaron Taylor-Smith at the moment is sixth, but he's not yet got a lap time out of the car. 3.5 minutes still to run, and Aaron Taylor-Smith is looking quick. He's used all of his hybrid now. Remember, he had 15 seconds worth, and he left a bit for the loop.
Yeah, you saw the blue flashing there. He used a couple of seconds, 2 or 3 seconds coming out the hairpin. Where's this lap going to put Aaron Taylor's fourth? Excellent.
Ahead of Ingram and Doble, who've yet to do a time. So we'll see how it all translates once 6 lap times have been recorded. 3 minutes of qualifying remain. Colin Turkington is the fastest for the moment.
But you're on board with Josh Cook, who's just set the fastest first sector. Well, he had until that was beaten by Mikey Doble, who's further back on the circuit, but very close indeed, both on a 20.4, 4.948 for Doble. So very competitive times. This is going to be a good lap.
Josh Cook then comes down now towards the S's. Flick left, flick right. There is Mikey Doble coming up through Coppice, that double apex right. And 2.5 minutes are on the clock. It's a good lap by Cook. It's certainly a good start to the lap by Mikey Doble. He is heading up now towards the end of that middle sector. It was a personal best there for Cook, a personal best for Doble as well. So the Vauxhall flicks out of the S's, goes down now towards the Melbourne hairpin. Just over 2 minutes of the session to go. Cook second, heading up towards the timing line now. Let's see what he can do then as the car breaks the beam. And Josh Cook is fastest, 1:33.498, 71 thousandths up on Colin Turkington.
Having done the fastest last sector of everyone, a 36.1, so he nailed the beginning and the end of that lap, certainly, didn't he?
Ingram third as he goes through. What about Mikey Doble? He's the only one not yet to have recorded a time, and he goes third fastest then. Mikey Doble up to third, ahead of Ingram and Sutton and Taylor-Smith sixth. And he's got time for 2 more laps as well, looking at the clock. So Josh Cook, 71 thousandths to the good, and it is 0.4 of a second, covering the 6 that are in this group.
Very, very tight. On board with Sutton. Through that first sector, all running painfully wide there. Don't forget, there's a sensor there, but that was on the absolute limit. I think he slowed down. He knows he's blown that lap, so he's slowed down. Doesn't want to slow down too much, or he won't get another lap in.
So Josh Cook is fastest, Ash Sutton fifth, but he's got just about enough time to go again. Tom Ingram, in the meantime, you're riding on board with now. He's coming down towards the Grand Prix loop, flicks between the tar stacks over the curb, and now down towards the Melbourne hairpin. This is looking good from Ingram, although the middle sector not quite as quick as it had been earlier on. Lock up there.
Lock up there, but he makes the apex. He hasn't lost any time at all with that. Donington has always been really good to Ingram in terms of results. Very successful here. Remember, he won 2 races here earlier this year on the short circuit, but he's also won on the long circuit here last year, the second race.
After that disappointment in race 1, after the penalty with the incident with Jake Hill. Over the line goes Ingram, doesn't improve, stays fourth, 20 seconds to go. He gets another lap out of this, but have his tyres had their best? This is Turkington now, and he is second, and he's not improving in that middle sector either, so it looks as though Turkington may miss out on a 31st career pole.
Yeah, it may well be. He just had the best out of the tyres.
To the line he comes, stays second, but he's escaped the flag, so he'll get one more push.
Yeah, so it looks like he is still pushing. You can tell he will have a delta on his lap, on his dash, telling him whether he's up or down on the lap. So at some point round this lap, he'll decide to either carry on or abort it.
Cook, in the meantime, looks as though this is going to be pole position, a 4th of his career, if he can hang on in there. 71 thousandths quicker than Colin Turkington, and with yellows, not greens, and certainly not purples in the sectors, it looks as though we have an order.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be. I won't preempt it, but Cookie, with his 11 seconds of hybrid, has used it very well indeed.
You see the nose drop right down onto the ground there as he hits the brakes hard, coming down to the Melbourne hairpin.
He did run wide, though. You saw he missed the apex there, so that was just a bit too late. He's lost time there at the hairpin.
Ash Sutton's gone across the line, but was not an improver, so he's gone through the sector, but he hasn't gone across the line. He was not quicker in the last part of the lap, but we'll see what he can do. Cook to the line, he backed it off, so Josh Cook stays the fastest, but Sutton 5th, 2 personal bests. Ingram has gone by as well. Turkington is yet to finish his session, so there's some more shuffling in the offing. 1 or 2 drivers have been able to respond right at the very end, even if it's not been in every sector. They've been able to get a good one, and Sutton is one of those improvers. He's up to 4th. Across the line behind is the Vauxhall. What about Colin Turkington? Absolute best middle sector, but no, ends up 2nd fastest. Still misses out on pole. So Josh Cook has done it. Career pole number 4 and 71 thousandths of a second the margin. Well done, Josh Cook.
Let's hope that puts a smile on his face.
And that will be his first Toyota pole position as well, won't it? Having switched to the Speedworks operation. The LKQ Euro car parts with Cinetic team for this year. And after 2 Turkington poles on the bounce, which followed 2 Ingram poles on the bounce, it's a pole position for Josh Cook here, and he'll be a happy man with that. So Cook, Turkington, Doble, Sutton, Ingram, Taylor-Smith, the order. And yet again, it delivers a very interesting lineup for race 1 tomorrow.
And you may already have said it, but of course, local team, Speedworks.
Local-ish, yes. It's the Toyota bit that's the local. They're based in Derby, whereas Speedworks is closest to Alton Park. But yes, it's another home race. They claim it as a home race, because of the Toyota manufacturing plant in Derby. You're quite right. So Donington matters for Toyota, just as it does at Alton Park. So there'll be 1 or 2 frustrated drivers from those 6, never mind those that missed out on getting into Q3. But Ash Sutton just ahead on that grid of Tom Ingram. Going to be a good fight between those tomorrow. And Josh Cook then setting himself up very nicely indeed. Now, of course, we've been talking about tyres and carryover and compounds for all of this. Race day.
Forget all this.
Absolutely.
They're all
one
on
compound.
They're all on one compound, the medium compound, the yellow sidewall Goodyear. We've had such a roller coaster of tyre performance at the last couple of races, with the soft and the medium and the hard in play, and a big disparity in performance, which we've seen. Some fans have liked it, some haven't, but tomorrow we're going to see what it's like when everyone's on the same tyre.
Indeed so. The ride height check has been done for Josh Cook. Now the car goes onto the scales, and then once the technical team is happy, the car will be released, and Josh Cook will fire up the engine, drive it away from the scales, which will be used to check the cars in the queue behind. And once he's arrived at his parking bay, then we can no doubt in a few moments hear from Josh Cook. Mikey Doble, Colin Turkington and Josh Cook, between them, claimed the absolute best sector times, but it was Josh Cook who put the lap together the best. And for the first time as a Toyota driver, it is a pole position. And the season is building nicely, isn't it? The further you go through the year, the stronger it gets for him, and indeed for others within the Toyota camp. But Josh Cook coming into the weekend 6th in the championship. There'll be a point for pole position, and standing there ready to say well done is Aidan Moffat, already in civvies. But he and Josh get on very, very well, and it's good that Aidan is the first one across to say well done. And others from the team are there as well, including Nick Cook, his engineer. Right, let's just have a recap of the order then. Josh Cook, the fastest in Q3. Colin Turkington, 2nd quickest. The margin between them, 71 thousandths of a second, with Mikey Doble 3rd. Ash Sutton, 4th. Tom Ingram, 5th. Aaron Taylor-Smith, 6th. And just a whisker over 0.4 of a second, covering those 6 drivers. So Josh Cook has done it. It's a 4th career pole, the first time he's got pole position aboard a Toyota. there's much to discuss with Louise.
Yeah, and Josh quickly taking his helmet off, because as you've probably been seeing, pretty much everybody on the team has come up to say congratulations, well done. I'll add it from me as well. Congratulations, your first pole as a Toyota driver at Toyota's home circuit. So that's ticking all sorts of boxes.
Yeah, it's good. The car was really good. Obviously, I've got no idea where you are relatively to everybody. But yeah, it was really good. I could just make it do what I wanted. I could make it dance around and get a lap time out of it. So yeah, still got to catch my breath. It's a bit, it was all going on inside the car.
We were having a conversation this morning for a little feature that people will be able to see in our race show tomorrow about the fact that this car is really getting to where you want it. It's doing what you want it to do, isn't it? So that bodes really well for race 1, well, and probably race 2 and 3 tomorrow.
Yeah, you know, of course, making the changes to give me what I want is really crucial for any driver that's driving the car. But yeah, it's still a case of making sure that we hit the spot with the car and we go the right direction at the right time. I mean, the guys in the pit stops there, you know, we were in Q2, and to get through to the final part, we quickly did a bunch of setup changes on the car that, you know, it was super close for getting it done. So credit to the team for really turning it around really quickly. Otherwise, I don't think we'd have quite had that edge. So yeah, really happy, really pleased with the team, but we need to convert this tomorrow now.
Well, generally speaking, that was a tricky session to manage, wasn't it, with the way that the conditions changed throughout the different sessions?
Yeah, it's one of those times where it's risk versus reward, and you know that you've got to be on the track at the end when it's at its best to produce the lap. And you know, around here, the high-speed sections, if you run a couple of inches wide, you're on the wet stuff and you're just a passenger. So it's so easy to make a mistake. It's just picking the right times to push and try and extract some time out of the car. And so many times we get it wrong, but luckily for today, it went really well. So you know, I'm really pleased for us as a team with you know, LKQ and Cinetic. It's great for us to be at Donington on pole position.
Well done, spot on, 4th career pole. Let's go down and grab a word. Oh, where's it disappeared to? With the man who is going to... No, I can't. No sign of Colin Turkington. Do we know where Colin Turkington has disappeared to? Well, I tell you what, let's go over and grab a word with Mikey Doble. There's Colin Turkington. He actually hasn't come through yet. So I'll go through and grab a word with Mikey Doble instead, finishing P3 in that session. Mikey, you threatened to get a really good result in FP2. We saw earlier on that the car was quick, but delivering that when it counts is a different matter, isn't it? Well done.
Thank you. I mean, like in FP1 and FP2, I knew we were strong, but you never really know what everyone else is doing until you get into qualifying. So to see that pace transpire into a quali result as well is, you know, a massive relief, and you know, mega happy for us and the team.
How tricky was it to manage that, not just that session, but the whole of qualifying?
Q1 was particularly difficult because it wasn't fully dry at the time. As I said, we was quick in those conditions earlier, and I managed to finish P1 in my group. After that, Q2, Q3, it was nearly dry, but obviously we've had no data from earlier on in the day to have a clue where we're at. So, no, it was fantastic, and the car was great.
I mean, I was just talking with Josh about the fact that, you know, he's got his car really where he wants it, but this car of yours, it's just been one of the standout cars of the year, really. You are one of the standout teams of the year, aren't you?
Yeah, I'll take that. No, I mean, the journey that Aaron and I have gone on in the last couple of years to work with a team and pick them up from where they were at the start of last season to where we are now, you know, both cars in the quick 6, looking great for tomorrow. It's just been an all-round team effort, you know, Evans Alshaw Power Max Racing. We all gel, we all want the same goal, and that's really important. It can't be undermined.
What are your thoughts looking ahead to tomorrow? Because qualifying is one thing, but the points come on race day.
I've got a bit more experience starting at the front now with Alton, where I had the pole, so you know, it's not new territory for me anymore. So I want to get a good start, get my head down, and top 5 would be great, and podium even better.
Fingers crossed for you for tomorrow. Right, I can hear Colin Turkington pulling up behind me. Let's see if we can dive in and grab a word with him as he... actually, while he's getting out of the car, let's just go and grab a quick word with Aaron. Just a quick line. I mean, we saw you on the front row last year. Last time out, yeah. Top 6 again, and both of you up there. Another good result for the team.
It's amazing. Like what Evan Alshaw have given both of us now is next level. You know, that's 3 top 6 shootouts in a row for me, which is pretty mad. So to be disappointed with 6 says a hell of a lot. But I'm delighted for the team as a whole. I think the two of us can work together tomorrow, and you never know. Like, there's 3 races, I want to win, so we'll see what happens.
Fingers crossed for you. Right, excuse me whilst we slide past. Colin Turkington's finally made it into Park Fermi, and his helmet just coming off. So before you dive in and have a catch up with Dan and Louise, have a catch up with me, front row. Good job.
That was a really tough session. It's when we reflect back, maybe everybody was in the same boat, but we had a set of softs, new softs, saved over from previous rounds. So track was sketchy, obviously Q1, so we put those on, and because the track was getting better and better, we hadn't taken much out of them, so they felt in a really good place. So we kept them on for Q2, and again they were great. So then we had the decision: do we leave them on, go to a new medium or an old soft? So we stuck with what we knew, and good enough obviously for P2. So yeah, I'm happy, but slightly feel that we could have been a pole maybe if we had have went for the other sort of carryover set of softs which have less mileage on them. But it's a risk, it's a risk going on I asked Dan where are these softs from. He said he didn't know, so that sort of put me off. Yeah, exactly. There were low mileage, but we didn't know where they were from, so sometimes you can put a set of tyres on and they just don't work. So we stuck with what we knew, and P2 is a great end result. And well, it's difficult out there, because that's every lap you're trying to just nick a bit, find a bit, and obviously this is our first dry running. So you're experimenting, and some things you get wrong, and then the next lap you correct it. So really intense session. So yeah, did my best, and it's nice to put the BMW on the front row. So good shape for tomorrow.
This new element that's been introduced this weekend of being able to carry over tyres from previous races, as you've just been intimating, it's adding a really interesting new element in for you and the engineering team as well, isn't it?
It really is, Louise, and the extra difficulty is you don't know what the others are going to do. The other 20 cars up and down the pit lane. So, I had a decision Q1. We really wanted to go with the new medium tyre I had, and hopefully that would be enough to get me through to Q2. Then I can go soft, and go for a pole. But the risk is if I go medium Q1, everybody else goes soft, and some people have like full hybrid, so it's so easy to be bumped out of Q1 when the car's potential for much more. So yeah, you have to roll the dice a bit and sort of think of loads of different scenarios. But yeah, I think we got it right. We made the right calls, but the track's still tricky out there. I would say it's 98% dry. It's still easy to get caught out. I had a few trips across the gravel and grass, etc. So a slight millimetre off the dry line onto the wet line, and your history. So but yeah, good session.
Good stuff. It was great to watch. Well done. We'll see you out there tomorrow. I can just see our current championship leader. So let's scoot up. Excuse us, Mikey, while we come on through. So I can grab a quick word with Tom Ingram, who had, as we saw last time out at Knockhill, slightly frustrating weekend. Still clinging on there at the top of the championship, though. And what a difference this qualifying result is to last time out at Knockhill, making it through to the quick six again. That must be a huge relief.
And especially in those circumstances as well, with the conditions, because we were literally in the palm of the gods there, going, what should we do? So it was tense. We went for the wet tyre in Q1, which we got through with. It was the safe option. Was it the faster option? No. In fairness, I don't think any of us really expected it to dry as quickly as it did. So it went from that first lap, I'd just probably about get away with this, to suddenly going, oh no, but you're already halfway around a lap, and then you fall out of sync. So I'll be honest, I think we were a little bit lucky in that first one, in that Q1, to get through and out of harm's way. So that was good. That was really, really good. And then obviously Q2, Q3, we're up with the we're up at the pace and up at the sharp end, and that's where we start to then notice the lack of hybrid. So I probably sound like a broken record, and I probably sound very Jason Plato-esque by going, I've got no power, but we got no power when we got no hybrid. So it's one of those. I'm very pleased to be in the mix. It seems like Ash, Jake, and I are going to be fairly close to each other tomorrow. Colin's obviously going to be fairly fast. There's going to be a few people in the mix. I think it's set to be quite a good race day.
Well, what are your thoughts looking ahead to tomorrow? As you say, P5 on the grid, no hybrid, got no power. What kind of result can you expect? You'll be hoping for a podium, but can you expect a podium from there?
Yeah, I mean, that would obviously be nice. Of course it would. We've obviously got to be fairly mindful of the people we're racing around us with Ash and Jake. We've obviously got to be mindful about trying to stay out of trouble. We're also got to be mindful about trying to pick up some big points over the course of the day. And I think a podium is on the cards. I'd like to think that's the case. But until we get into the race scenario, we just don't know. I think there's supposed to be a big, bright, shiny thing in the sky for most of tomorrow. That could also change. Of course, we're going to be going for maximum points. Of course we are. At this stage of the season, we've still got to be thinking of the big picture, but we've also still got to be racing, and we've still got to be thinking about getting as many points as we can.
Lovely. We will see you out there. That's all from us down here. Back to you guys.
Louise, thanks very much. Mikey Doble, we didn't actually touch on the fact, but not only was it a good lap, it was also the first time he'd been in Q3. So credit to Mikey Doble as well. And at the end of the 3 parts of qualifying, the grid order provisionally is going to look like this, with Josh Cook on pole from Colin Turkington and Mikey Doble taking the independent pole third ahead of Ash Sutton, Tom Ingram and Aaron Taylor-Smith. Jake Hill 7th ahead of Adam Morgan, with Dan Camish 9th, and the top 10 rounded out by Tom Chilton. 11th quickest, Rob Huff ahead of Sam Osborne and Daryl De Leon. Chris Smiley and Dan Rowbottom 2 to watch, 14th and 15th ahead of Dan Zelos, set for his first touring car race tomorrow. Nick Halstead next, Aidan Moffat a winner here early on in the year, only 18th, with fellow Toyota driver Andrew Watson behind him, and Scott Sumpton rounds out the 20. Lots to look for, that's for sure, in the first race tomorrow. The Grand Prix circuit always provides plenty of action. And it's going to be a really interesting race day, that is for certain. So tomorrow it'll be ITV4 showing the coverage, and we'll be on air from 10:45 with, as ever, the full support programme. This weekend, the Mini Challenge, Porsche Sprint Challenge and Carrera Cup GB joins British Formula 4, all of which you'll be able to catch tomorrow on ITV4 from 10:45 as we get towards the crunch time within the British Touring Car Championship. For now, though, thanks for your company. From Louise Goodman, Tim Harvey and David Addison, we'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.